Hello everyone, I want to talk September 20. Miracle is here. God says open this now, and it is as though the earth itself has been holding its breath for a season. Waiting for the appointed hour, waiting for the clock of eternity to strike upon the dial of time. And now the sound is clear. Now the air trembles with a note not made by any instrument of man. For the miracle has always been present, though unseen. It has been pressing against the edges of our lives like light behind a curtain, and now the curtain is drawn aside. For so long, the hearts of men have lived in a dim twilight, longing for something they could not name, searching for fragments of hope in broken cisterns, thirsting for water that was not there, and yet all the while the well of life stood sealed at their very side. The blindness was not total, for there were whispers in every sunrise, promises hidden in the flight of birds, in the laughter of children, in the ache of conscience, in the longing that wakes a soul in the middle of the night, reminding it that it was made for more than the dust. But still the veil covered, still the seal remained, until this day, until this moment, until the voice declared open it now. The miracle has not changed, it is eternal. It is older than the mountains, and yet newer than the dawn that breaks over them. What has changed is the eyes that look upon it. For when God commands that the seal be broken, when he declares that the hidden be revealed, then what was once invisible to the multitude becomes clear as daylight, and what was once dismissed as myth becomes more solid than stone. We are not speaking of trifles, not of baubles to amuse the curious, but of something that shakes the heavens, something that bends history like a tree in the storm. Think of it, for centuries, generations have passed, and each one has touched the edges of this miracle without seeing it, like a blind man brushing his hand against the frame of a door he cannot open. But now the key has been given, the lock has turned, and the door swings wide. It is a strange thing, is it not, how men live among wonders and fail to see them? They walk under the blazing stars and call them cold stones. They breathe air and forget that every breath is borrowed. They look at the face of a child and reduce it to chance. They bury their hunger beneath distractions and silence the ache of eternity with noise. And yet, when the appointed time comes, when God himself says enough, open it now, then even the dullest eye is forced awake, and the sleepers must rise, for the light is too strong to be ignored. That is what this day is, September 20. Not a date on the calendar only, but a trumpet note in the fabric of reality, calling out that the miracle is here, that the hidden treasure has been laid bare, and that all who have ears must listen, all who have eyes must look, all who have hearts must open. You see, the miracle is not something foreign to us. It has always been pressing close. It is like a letter slipped under the door long ago, but the house was too noisy to hear it fall, too crowded with worries to stoop and pick it up. The letter lay there, gathering dust, its words waiting, its seal unbroken, until this moment. Now the command comes, not as suggestion, not as gentle hint, but as a voice from the depths: open this now. For in it is not mere information, not idle poetry, but life, life abundant. Life that overflows and reshapes all that it touches. Think of the man who has lived his life in a dry desert, who has learned to make do with cracked lips and a parched tongue, who has trained himself not to hope for rain lest his heart be broken. And then suddenly, one morning, he hears the roar of a river at his feet, and the sand is gone, replaced by rushing waters. What else can he do but drink? What else can he do but fall to his knees and weep? That is what it is when the miracle long hidden becomes manifest. The soul that thought it knew the boundaries of its world suddenly finds that those walls were shadows, that the ceiling above its head was paper, thin, and that beyond it lies an expanse too vast to measure. And this is not imagination, not the froth of emotion, but the very structure of truth, the reality behind realities. Men have always been haunted by this, which is why every story, every myth, every fragment of longing in human culture points to something greater, something just out of reach. They thought it was wishful thinking, but no, it was memory. Faint though it was, memory of a promise older than the stars. And now, on this day, that memory bursts into present fact. It is not that the miracle was absent until now, for the miracle has no beginning and no end. It is that men were absent to it, distracted, estranged, running after the dust of their own inventions. God, in his patience, allowed the blindness to run its course, allowed the centuries to unfold, waiting for the precise hour when the seal could be broken without destroying those who were not yet ready. And now that hour has come. When he says open, it is not a request, it is reality itself bending to his word. The seal breaks because his voice has gone forth, and the miracle is seen because he has willed it. What is it like, you may wonder, to see the miracle unveiled? It is not the glitter of gold or the flash of power, as men count it. It is the stillness that shakes the soul, the light that reveals every shadow, and yet does not condemn, the fire that burns yet does not consume. It is the presence that was always there, now undeniable. It is the sense that you are known utterly, and yet not rejected, that you are small beyond measure, and yet loved beyond comprehension. It is the realization that everything you thought was ordinary is drenched in the extraordinary, that the grass beneath your feet, the sky above your head, the pulse in your wrist are each threads of a greater tapestry, and that the weaver himself has just stepped into the room. The danger, of course, is that some will see and turn away, preferring the darkness to the light, preferring the chains of their own making to the freedom offered. For the miracle does not flatter, it does not serve our pride, it does not bend to our agendas. It is what it is, unchanging, uncompromised, and it demands that we open, that we lay down our defenses, that we yield. That is why it was hidden for so long, for hearts unprepared would have shattered under the weight of it. But for those who open, who obey the command, there is life. Not the thin shadow of life that we have grown accustomed to, but the deep, roaring life that rushes from the throne of God, clear as crystal, unstoppable as the tide. Do not mistake this for metaphor. The miracle is not a symbol of something else, it is itself, more real than the ground under your feet, more lasting than the stars overhead. The ground will crack, the stars will fade, but the miracle remains, for it is rooted in the eternal. September 20 is not magic, not chance, but appointment, the hour chosen before time began. And the words open this now are not optional. To delay is to miss the river when it floods, to stand on the bank while others are swept into joy, to remain thirsty when the fountain has burst forth. And so the choice lies before every soul, though it is hardly a choice, for what choice does a starving man have when bread is placed in his hand? What choice does a prisoner have when the door swings wide? He may refuse, of course, but his refusal condemns him to remain in chains, to starve while the feast is laid. The wiser course, the only course, is to open, to receive, to drink, to step through. For the miracle is here, it has always been here, but today it is unveiled, today it is pressed upon us with undeniable urgency. The veil has been lifted, the seal broken, and the voice has spoken. Open it now. The letter is no longer hidden beneath dust, it lies before you, radiant with light, burning with truth. The river is no longer a distant dream, it roars at your feet. The door is no longer locked, it swings wide on its hinges. And beyond it lies the country you have longed for all your life, without knowing its name. September 20 miracle is here, God says open this now. And yet to open what he has sealed is not an act for idle hands, or for the playful curiosity of those who would peek into mysteries for entertainment. For what lies within is not a puzzle but a summons, not a curiosity but a fire. The hand that reaches to open must tremble, not from fear of punishment alone, but from the awe of knowing that obedience itself is the key. That to open is to bow, that to look is to surrender. This is why the command comes as it does, with the weight of eternity behind it. Open this now. For it is not something we choose to unlock when it pleases us. It is a matter of heaven's timing, of the intersection between the eternal and the present hour. To delay is disobedience, to open in presumption is folly, but to open in obedience is life, and in that life both judgment and mercy stream together like twin rivers flowing into the same sea. The seal of God is never meaningless. What he hides, He hides for purpose, and what he commands to be opened, he reveals with intention. Imagine for a moment the ark sealed away in the wilderness, untouchable, wrapped in holiness, carried but never laid bare to idle eyes. To open it was not a matter of curiosity but of covenant, not a matter of daring but of obedience. The one who approached with levity was undone, while the one who approached with reverence found in it not terror but glory. So too here, on this day. When the voice declares the miracle is present, open it now. The call is not to the scoffer who would pry, but to the faithful who would bow. For in the opening there is both a sword and a bomb, both the weight of truth and the gentleness of grace, and one cannot be separated from the other. Consider how easily men twist the idea of a miracle into spectacle, seeking signs as though they were stage lights, hungering for wonders as though they were fireworks to amuse a restless crowd. But this is not that. The miracle is not for entertainment, it is for transformation. It is not a jewel to be admired in a glass case, but a flame to be grasped in the hand, a flame that will either burn away the dross or purify the vessel. When God says open this now, he is summoning us to obedience, to courage, to faith that steps forward even though the light is too bright for unprepared eyes. For within lies both the declaration that we are judged and the declaration that we are loved, both in equal measure, and it is only by obedience that we can bear it. The human heart wants one without the other. It longs for mercy without judgment, or it braces for judgment without daring to believe in mercy. But the miracle holds them together, unseparated, indivisible. The same fire that reveals every hidden thought is the fire that warms the soul and drives away its chill. The same voice that exposes the frailty of our works is the voice that calls us sons and daughters. And so to open is to face both, to be stripped and to be clothed, to be wounded and to be healed. This is why obedience is essential, for without it the mind rebels, the pride stiffens, and the miracle is misunderstood as cruelty. But the obedient heart, trembling though it may be, sees that within the terrible blaze lies a love deeper than oceans, and that the wound it inflicts is the wound that heals. Think of the ancient story of the coal, placed upon the prophet's lips, a burning ember from the altar of God. To the careless it would be destruction, to the defiant it would be unbearable torment, but to the one who bowed in humility it was cleansing, it was the touch that made him whole. So it is now, on this appointed day, when God commands that the hidden be revealed, when he says open this now. The coal is not gone cold, it glows with fire, and in that fire is mercy. In that mercy is judgment, in that judgment is love. Who dares to open? Only the one who dares to obey, who dares to believe that the hand of God, though blazing, does not destroy those who trust it. We live in an age where curiosity is praised as a virtue, where the hunger to uncover is considered noble in itself. But the opening God commands is not curiosity, it is surrender. The heart must bend before the seal breaks, the will must bow before the gift is unveiled. For the miracle is no trinket, no curiosity to be catalogued in books or displayed in glass. It is the living presence, the living word, the living flame. To open with curiosity alone is to be undone, to open with obedience is to be remade. And it is in that obedience that the strange paradox is found. The more one yields, the more one is strengthened, the more one bows, the more one is lifted, the more one surrenders, the more one becomes truly free. You may wonder what it means to say that judgment and mercy are together in this unveiling. It means that when the seal is broken, nothing false can stand. The masks we wear, the excuses we craft, the lies we tell ourselves, all are consumed in the fire of truth. And yet, astonishingly, in the very same moment, the mercy flows like a river, covering, cleansing, lifting, restoring. It is as though the mirror that once showed us dimly now shows with perfect clarity, and though we see all our stains, in that same instant the hand wipes them away. It is as though the law speaks its condemnation, and yet the voice of love speaks louder still, declaring forgiveness, declaring belonging. This is why obedience matters, because only the heart that bows can receive both without fleeing, can stand in the fire and not be destroyed, can drink from the river and not drown. Obedience is not servility, it is alignment. It is the soul stepping into its true posture, acknowledging its maker, admitting its need, recognizing that the command is not tyranny but life. When God says, "Open this now," he does not speak as a taskmaster snapping orders, but as a father offering bread, as a physician extending healing, as a shepherd calling home his wandering sheep. Yet still, it requires courage. For the opening is not without cost. The gift is wrapped in fire as well as tenderness, and to step forward is to allow ourselves to be pierced, to be searched, to be undone, in order to be remade. There is no other way, for the miracle is too real, too holy, too weighty to be treated lightly. Imagine a man standing before a sealed chest, knowing it contains both the record of his deepest failures and the proclamation of his redemption. His instinct is to hesitate, to shrink back, for he fears the exposure of the first more than he trusts the promise of the second. But then the voice of God speaks, "Open this now," and the man realizes that obedience is his only way forward. He opens, and yes, the record is there, the truth undeniable, the guilt plain. But alongside it is the declaration written in a hand stronger than his sin, declaring mercy, declaring pardon, declaring love. This is what it means that the gift is wrapped in both fire and tenderness. The fire burns away the illusion, but the tenderness cradles the soul. The flame reveals, but the flame also warms. So the miracle stands before us, not as a stage trick but as a living reality, a reality that demands courage. The easy path is to look away, to pretend we did not hear the command, to distract ourselves with the noise of the world. But the command cannot be unheard. The miracle cannot be unseen, and the choice remains. To open in obedience is to find life, to refuse is to remain in shadow. This is why the voice speaks with such urgency. Open this now, for the time is short, the appointed hour has come, and what has been sealed cannot remain sealed forever. The floodgates are opening, the fire is kindled, the mercy is flowing, and the ones who open will be caught up in its tide. And perhaps, in the end, this is the heart of it, that the miracle requires courage, because it requires trust. To open is to place ourselves in the hands of the one who commands, to believe that even if the flame burns, it burns for our good, even if the truth pierces. It pierces to heal, even if the unveiling strips us bare, it strips us only to clothe us more fully. The opening is obedience, but obedience is trust. And trust is the only soil in which the miracle can take root. And so the voice rings out over this day. This appointed moment, the miracle is here. God says, "Open this now." September 20, miracle is here. God says, "Open this now." And when the command is given, it is not to take the miracle into our hands, as though it were a trinket to be admired from a distance, polished, and set upon a shelf for sentimental remembrance, but rather to step through it as through a door, to cross its threshold as one crosses from shadow into sunrise. For the miracle is not an ornament, but an entrance, not a relic, but a road. Too long men have imagined the gifts of God as treasures to be looked at rather than lived in, as objects to be stored in memory rather than passages into reality. But now the voice declares the truth plainly. The miracle is a door, and it must be opened. And those who open with faith will find themselves walking into a country not built by human hands, a kingdom older than the mountains and fresher than the dawn. It is natural for man to hold wonders at arm's length, to treat them as rare curiosities, to analyze them, explain them, even relegate them to myth if explanation fails, for the heart fears to be too near what might change it. Safer to admire than to enter, safer to study than to obey, safer to glance than to gaze, but the miracle cannot be safely handled, for it is not given to be kept, but to be entered. Not shown that we might clap our hands in amazement, but opened that we might cross over and be remade. When God says open this now, he means step into life, step into truth, step into a realm where all that was broken is made whole, and all that was hidden is brought into glorious light. Imagine a man who has lived his entire life before the closed gates of a great garden, pressing his face to the bars, longing for the fragrance, dreaming of the colors beyond, yet always telling himself that the gate is not for him. that perhaps the garden itself is but a dream. Then one day he hears a voice, not his own, but commanding, clear as thunder and yet gentle as wind, saying, "Open this now." And when he obeys, when he pushes and finds that the gate yields, he does not stand outside admiring the ironwork of the gate, but steps through into the garden itself. And suddenly he knows what he was made for. Suddenly he breathes air he has never tasted. Suddenly he is alive in a way he had not thought possible. That is what the miracle is, not a story to be remembered, but a door to be walked through, a living threshold to a kingdom that is reality itself. This is why faith is demanded, because to step through the door requires leaving something behind. No one enters a kingdom without exiting another. No one walks into light without turning their back to darkness. To open the miracle is to choose, to place the weight of our being upon the promise that what lies beyond is better than what we leave behind. And this is why the fearful hesitate, why the proud hold back, why the skeptical scoff. For to enter the kingdom is to lose control of the small world we built for ourselves, to surrender the illusion that we were masters of our own house. The miracle is not content to stand politely in our collection of experiences. It demands we cross over, that we pass through, that we let go of the little shadows in order to take hold of the blazing sun. Think of the disciples who once stood before an empty tomb. They could have walked away, shrugged, explained it as theft, as trick, as mystery too dangerous to unravel. But some entered, stooping low, stepping past the threshold into a place that changed them forever. They did not stand outside admiring the stone rolled back. They walked into the silence of a chamber where death had lost its grip, and by entering they were never the same. So it is with us now. The stone has rolled, the door stands open, the voice has spoken, "Open this now." And it is not for us to make theories about the stone, but to step inside and see the life that waits. The miracle is a door because it leads not merely to knowledge but to transformation. Knowledge alone leaves a man where he is, richer perhaps in understanding but unchanged in heart. But stepping through the door alters everything. It shifts the center of gravity of the soul. It rewrites the story of existence. One does not step into a kingdom and remain a citizen of the old country. One does not breathe the air of eternity and remain satisfied with dust. The miracle does not decorate life, it recreates it. It does not add a new chapter to the book, it writes the story anew from its beginning. And that is why God himself must command us, for left to ourselves we would linger outside, weighing, wondering, bargaining, but never crossing. His voice cuts through hesitation, "Open this now." And once opened, there is no mistaking where one stands. The light of the kingdom is not like the flicker of candles in a room. It is like the breaking of dawn after a night, so long one had forgotten what morning meant. The air of the kingdom is not like the stale breath of enclosed chambers. It is like standing on the edge of the sea, with winds rushing fresh against the face. Everything ordinary takes on a newness, for it is not destroyed but fulfilled. The grass underfoot glows with glory, the sky above sings with majesty. The very self you carried so long feels lighter, freer, more itself than ever before. This is what it means to walk into the miracle. Not to admire it as an onlooker, but to live within it. To find that life itself has always been pointing here, always leading to this threshold, always whispering of this door. And yet it must be said, not all will enter. Some will treat the miracle as spectacle, peering in but unwilling to step through, taking photographs at the threshold as though eternity could be captured by the lens of self-interest. Some will laugh, turning away, muttering that the door is illusion, preferring the prison they know to the liberty they cannot imagine. Some will hesitate too long, waiting for another day, another time, thinking the door will wait for them forever. But the command is now, not later, not when convenient. The door stands open this day, and those who walk through will find a kingdom prepared, while those who linger risk losing sight of it altogether. Do not mistake this for cruelty. The command "Open this now" is mercy itself, for God knows that man will delay, will excuse, will hide from the light, and so he speaks with urgency. not to terrify but to save. The door is gift, the miracle is invitation, and obedience is simply trust that what he offers is greater than what we cling to. The door does not lead into emptiness but into fullness, not into loss but into gain. To step through is to discover that the fears we carried were illusions, that the chains we loved were rust, that the kingdom we enter is the very home we have longed for all our lives. The miracle is here, it is now, it is open. To admire is not enough, to discuss is not enough, to believe in theory is not enough. We must step through. We must open with faith, we must yield. We must walk across the threshold and find ourselves in a land not of our own making but of his promise. A land where light has no end and love has no measure. The command is clear, the invitation urgent, the miracle unveiled. Open this now, for the door is before you, and the kingdom awaits.